Part 2 of the video. So when you have the same denominator, it's a piece of cake. When you have 5/8, take away 3/8, what do we get? 2/8, which reduces down to 1/4. Done. When you have a common denominator, it is cake. No matter what you have, if you have a common denominator, it's easy to do. What's the answer to number 1 here? Do we have a common denominator? Yes, we do. So what do? I do 4, take away 5. What do I get? -1, and you put it over the common denominator, 8x. Easy peasy. Number 2, what's my answer going to be? Could you add 2 plus x? No, you can't. They're not like terms, so you're just going to rewrite it, but make it nicer. X plus 2 over the common denominator, x plus 3. Ta-da! Easy? Moving on to the third one. What's my answer going to be? Could I add the top with the top? Could I add this guy with this guy? Yes, I could. I could combine the x with the x. So the common denominator is going to be x plus 3. And we end up with a 2x plus 6. Now, whenever you have a fraction as an answer, you're supposed to always try and reduce it. And how do we reduce when we have variables? You simplify by factoring and trying to cancel. So could we factor, could we pull anything out of the numerator? What could we pull out? A 2, bless you. So we're going to pull out that 2. What are we going to have left on the inside? X plus 3. That's what's left on the inside. And in the denominator, we still have that x plus 3 on the bottom. So that's a good thing because the x plus 3 on top and the x plus 3 on the bottom cancel out, which means our final answer is just 2. So when you have a common denominator, it's easy, really easy. And we already did number 4 on the other video when we didn't have a common denominator. But the thing is, check these guys out. It's going to be very difficult to find the common denominator right there. Because you do not want to multiply this guy with this guy. You don't want to do that. So let me try to reteach you how to find the LCD, okay? Everybody pay attention. We're going to relearn how to find the LCD. Now, what's the LCD of number 1 right here? Could the common denominator be 40? Yes, the common denominator could be 40. But there's a better number, the LCD, what's that? 20. Now, I already know that you go through the thought process and say, okay, 10 times 2 is 20, and 4 times 5 is 20, so my LCD is 20. But let me give you a step-by-step way of doing it. Let's do the prime factorization of 4. So 4 is really 2 times 2, and the 10 is really a 2 times 5. So here's the key, guys. Whatever repeats in this group and this group, you're going to write it once. So the 2 is right there and the 2 is right there. I'm going to write it once. And then I'm going to bring down the rest. Bring down the 2, bring down the 5. And believe it or not, when you multiply 2 times 5, it'll give you the LCD that you already told me, which was 20. 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 5 is 20. Does that make sense? Now, I know you're thinking, why the heck do I want to do that if I already know that the LCD is 20? Example, over here, number 2, what's the LCD? It's the common denominator. Yeah, you could use 48, but what's the LCD, the least common denominator? 16 doesn't work, 24 works, right? Now, I know that you guys know how to do that in your head, but try this other method. Break down the 8 as much as you could. 8 breaks down to 2 times 2 times 2. And then the 6 breaks down to 2 times 3. Find out what's repeating in the first one and the second one and write it down once. And then what about the rest? Just bring them down. And then multiply it all through. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. Times 3 is the LCD 24. Again, you're probably thinking, why? Why do I want to do that? I don't want to do this. I already know the LCD is 24. Yeah, that's great. You know how to find the LCD back in the 4th grade. 8 and 6, 24. But let's learn this new method because it's going to help us on more complicated problems. So let's practice it. You know what? Let's just jump to number 4. We're running out of time here. Let's practice number 4. How am I going to find the LCD? I want to break down 9 to what? 3 times 3. And 12 I'm going to break down to what? 3 times 4, or 3 times 2 times 2, because 4 is really 2 times 2. And what repeats? There's a 3 here, and there's a 3 there, so I write it down once, 3, and then I bring down everything else. Another 3, another 2, and another 2. So what's my LCD going to be? 3 times 3 is 9, times 2 is 18, times 2 is 36. So my LCD is 36. Now that's not the answer. That's just telling us that if I wanted to rewrite these two fractions with the LCD, I need to change them both to 36. So I have a 36 down here, a 36 over here. There's a plus sign right in between them. And I change the 9 to a 36 by multiplying by 4. Multiply by 4, I'll get 8 up here. The 12, it changes to 36 by multiplying by 3. Multiply by 3, you get a 3 up here. And now you'll be able to go 8 plus 3 is 11, and 11 over 36 is your final answer. But I know you're thinking, why do I want to learn this new method of pretty much rewriting, breaking it down to multiplication, and then rewriting this new method? Well, it's going to help you out a lot when you look at this problem right here. So number 1, let's factor first, and this denominator is going to factor to what? Stay with me, guys. X plus 3, x plus 2. What times what is 6? That if you add together is 5. That's a 3 and a 2. What could I factor out of the second fraction? 2. What's left over on the inside? So how are we going to write a common denominator? Now what do I mean by that? How am I going to change the original fractions to now have a common denominator on both? Well, remember what we did above? You find out what's repeating in both. There's an x plus 2 there and an x plus 2 there. So I'm going to write it once. X plus 2. That's a part of my common denominator. And what do I do with the rest? I bring them down. So I'm going to bring down the leftover x plus 3 and also the leftover 2, and I might as well put the 2 out in front. Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, that is your least common denominator right there. 2 times x plus 2 times x plus 3. So let me write that twice. 2 times x plus 2 times x plus 3. And now let's go back to the original and say, what do I do to this guy to make it look like this guy? What's it missing, guys? What's this denominator missing compared to this guy? 2. So you need to go times 2 right here to make it look like this guy down here. But what you do to the bottom, you have to also do to the top. So multiply by 2 on top and you get a 2 up on top. And now let's go back to the original over here. What's missing from this guy so it'll look like this new LCD? An x plus 3 is missing. So if you go times x plus 3 on the bottom and also times x plus 3 on top, of course you're going to get what as your new numerator? 7x plus 21. So do you see how we got those new common denominators, LCDs? By factoring first and then rewriting everything that's like repeated. You just write it once and then bring down everything else. That'll be your new LCD. Then you'll have your new fractions, and then you'll be able to add the top with the top and rewrite your answer over the common denominator. So my answer is obviously going to have 2x plus 2, x plus 3 as the denominator, and on top, what do I have? 7x plus 23. Of course, you're supposed to try and factor, but there's nothing factorable. So that is your final answer right there. Does that make sense? Let's jump to number 2. So let's factor the first denominator. What do I get? What do I get, guys? 2 and 3. Thanks for paying attention. So this one's already rewritten right there. How about the second denominator? What does that break down to? 2 and 1. So now let's figure out our LCD, ladies and gentlemen. Our LCD, the new common denominator, what's it going to be? Just x plus 2. It's repeated twice. You just write it once. X plus 2. And what about everything else? You bring it down. X plus 3, you bring it down. And also, x plus 1, you bring it down. That is your LCD. It's ugly, but that's it right there. So you're going to write it twice. X plus 2, x plus 3, x plus 1. And then you're going to go back to your original and say, how do I change this original factored denominator to be this new LCD? What's missing? X plus 1. So put an x plus 1 down there. Well, that's ugly. And also put an x plus 1 up here. Now, of course, you're going to distribute the 1, which is going to give you what? X plus 1. Same exact thing. Now, let's look at the left side, or the right side. What do we do to this denominator to get this new denominator? X plus 3 is missing. So you're going to go x plus 3 down here, and also x plus 3 up here. And of course, you have to distribute. So what's our new numerator on the right fraction? 2x plus 6. And now that we have a common denominator, what could we do? Add the top with the top. And of course, we're just going to be combining like terms. So I'm going to be combining this x with that 2x. So let me rewrite my answer format here. It's going to be that same common denominator. Let me pause it and just put it there. So there's my LCD on my answer. And let's combine the numerator with the numerator, combining the x with the 2x, and I'll get 3x. And of course, the 1 with the 6, and I'll get 7. And there's my final answer. Of course, it would be nice if I could factor out something from the top and get something to cancel, but nothing else works. So that is my final answer for that one. Does that make sense? Hope so. Let's move on. So I'm going to factor each of those denominators. So as you can see, I factored both denominators, and we have those new factored form denominators. And now it's time to write down our LCDs. Now, what repeats? Well, the x minus 4 repeats, so start with that. Write down x minus 4 as the first part of your LCD. And what about the rest? Bring it down. Bring down the x plus 3. And also bring down the 12 that's out in the front. So this is your common denominator, your LCD. 12 times x minus 4 times x plus 3. You write it twice. Then you go to your first denominator and you say, what's missing? What's missing on this first one compared to the second one? A 12. So if you multiply both top and bottom by 12, you get 12x. What's missing on the second denominator? This guy, what's missing compared to this guy? X plus 3. So you do x plus 3 both on top and on bottom. And of course, when you distribute, you're going to end up with 5x plus 15. And I'm rushing because I only have a couple of seconds left. So my final answer will be, combining the 12x with the 5x, you're going to get 17x plus 15 over that LCD we found, x minus 4, x plus 3. And unfortunately, we ran out of time on this video, so we're not going to do the other ones. So please make sure you study and finish the homework. The homework assignment is right here on your worksheet. We're going to be working on this for the next couple of days.